A wound is a break on the skin or other tissue and can be classified as abrasion, cut, laceration, and burn. And there are several factors affecting wound healing such as the age, overall health, nutrition, and type of wound. But we won't be focusing on that. Now, what are the processes of wound healing? Let's start with stopping the bleeding. So the first step in wound healing is hemostasis, and it is the body's natural process to stop bleeding. So, when you get cut, your body immediately goes into action to prevent blood loss. Now, how does this work? Well, almost immediately after the cut, vasoactive compounds such as catecholamines, serotonin, bradykinin, and histamine act on the narrowing of the blood vessels. This is called vasoconstriction. Well, vasoconstriction is like the tightening of a hose. When you squeeze a hose, the water flows, slows down, or stops. Then, the tiny cells, called platelets, rush to the injured area. They aggregate in the damaged area and adhere to the exposed collagen fibers at the site of the wound. As the platelets adhere, they become activated and release more factors that cause more platelets to aggregate to form a plug or thrombus. This thrombus helps seal the blood vessels, preventing excessive blood loss.
The propagation of the coagulation cascade amplifies the clotting process. When platelets are activated, they initiate a series of biochemical reactions that lead to the activation of coagulation factors. These factors work together to convert fibrinogen, a soluble protein, into a fibrin, an insoluble protein that forms a mesh-like structure around the platelet thrombus. This fibrin mesh reinforces the clot and helps to prevent bleeding. Moreover, the clot serves as scaffolding for the cells that will be recruited in the subsequent phases. The clot and surrounding wound tissue then release mediators like pro-inflammatory cytokines and growth factors such as transforming growth factor beta, platelet-derived growth factor, fibroblast growth factor, and epidermal growth factor. Once bleeding is controlled, the mediators induce vasodilation to allow inflammatory cells to migrate into the wound and promote the inflammatory phase, which is characterized by the sequential infiltration of polymorphonuclear cells, also known as neutrophils, and macrophages.
Anyway, the aforementioned mediators in the extracellular matrix or the ECM promote the margination, adhesion, and extravasation of polymorphonuclear cells to the wound. The release of fibrinopeptides caused by the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin that happen in the hemostasis phase is crucial for the recruitment of these polymorphonuclear cells. These cells degrade necrotic tissue and release proteinases to attract even more of their kind into the area. Moreover, they phagocytize bacteria and extracellular debris, removing them from the wound. On the other hand, macrophages play multiple roles in wound healing. In the early wound, macrophages release cytokines that promote the inflammatory response by recruiting and activating additional leukocytes. They also eliminate apoptic cells, including neutrophils, aiding in inflammation resolution. As macrophages clear these cells, they shift their phenotype to a reparative state, encouraging keratinocyte, fibroblasts, and blood vessel growth, which is angiogenesis. This way, macrophages promote the transition to the proliferative phase of healing.
Several proliferative processes occur during the repair stage, including angiogenesis, fibroplasia, and epithelialization. Wound construction also occurs during this stage, and we'll talk about this later. The transition from the inflammatory to repair stage is marked by the invasion of fibroblasts and an increased accumulation of collagen in the wound. In addition, there is migration and formation of new endothelial structure within the wound. The combination of new capillaries, fibroblasts, and fibrous connective tissue forms the characteristic red fleshy granulation tissue that fills the wound beneath the scab or under the bandage. Granulation tissue protects the wound, provides a barrier to infections, and provides a surface for epithelialization. Granulation tissue also contains special wound fibroblasts called myofibroblasts that are important in wound construction. You might be thinking, how would this happen? Well, despite the eagerness to be healed and patched up quickly, the necessity in recoverable length is required during this phase, where it generally involves epithelialization. Generally begins hours after the injury. Epidermal cells at the edge of a wound undergo a transformation. They break free from their connections with neighboring cells and the underlying tissue. This allows them to move across the wound surface, guided by internal structure called actin microfilaments. As they move, they separate the damaged tissue or a scar from the healthy tissue beneath. In shallow wounds, structure like oil glands and hair follicles also help in the process of skin cell regrowth.
You must be thinking, is that it? Nor. This also includes the activity of fibroblastia, which facilitates the growth and activity of fibroblasts as they are responsible in wound healing, creating new tissue, and collagen, which are responsible in strengthening the wound, in carrying new fibers with assistance of elastin, despite in lower amounts, providing flexibility and wrinkle management in the wound. As simple as this, maybe you might have a short-term memory. So here's another simpler analogy for you. Imagine building a house. The foundation is like the wound, and the walls, roof, and other parts of the house are like the new tissue. Fibroblasts are like the builders who work to construct the house. Collagen is like the bricks and mortar that make up the walls and foundation. Elastin is like the flexible parts of the house, like the windows and doors that allow for movement. The fibroblasts are responsible for building the new tissue, which is the house, using collagen, which is the bricks and mortar, and elastin, the flexible parts. And with the wound healing process from this phase, contraction is a crucial part. This is akin to a meat being cooked, contracting on its edges, as a wound construction or wound contraction is the process of the edges of a wound moving closer together. It starts soon after the wound is injured and is most active within a couple of weeks. The size of the wound shrinks, and due to this process, in assistance with myofibroblasts, as they are special cells that help in wound contraction, they connect to the extracellular matrix and multiply, pulling the wound edges together.
After the initial inflammatory and proliferative phases, the wound enters the maturation or remodeling phase. During this stage, the provisional ECM is replaced by a more mature ECM, characterized by increased collagen cross-linking and remodeling. Collagen cross-linking enhances the tensile strength of the wound, making it more resistant to mechanical stress. Remodeling involves the gradual breakdown of the old ECM and the synthesis of a new ECM. Collagen and scar formation are also essential during this phase. Collagen, a major component of the ECM, is synthesized by fibroblasts. As the wound heals, collagen fibers become increasingly organized and cross-linked, forming a scar.